Sink back in my chair here, get myself cozy, because we are going to be doing a review today of a film I finally saw yesterday, and that was Dune. Denis Villeneuve's Dune. This was a film that I was really looking forward to in 2020. I don't even know if I mentioned it or not when it was announced, but I was looking forward to it. I was like, this could be a really fun sci-fi picture, especially with, a lot of people really enjoying, Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049. A lot of people really enjoyed that film. I did when it first came out, but subsequent viewings of it, I've just kind of, it hasn't really aged well, to be completely honest. I think the CG and everything has, but just the story itself just kind of doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I think this film is a lot better than that. I'll say that off the bat in my non-spoiler thoughts, because this is kind of what I'm going to give before I go into spoilers. I'm going to have like a little non-spoiler intro for every one of these spoiler reviews, just for the people that are wondering my opinion. But, this film... I will say I actually do think is better than 2049 from a story standpoint, definitely. Even from a character standpoint, I think too. But there are things I think that film is still better visually than this is. This film is and this is kind of one of my non-spoiler thoughts, is that the film just is, it's very dull to me. I just thought that the color palettes, a lot of the costuming, I thought some of the designs of the costumes were cool, but I just thought the colors were very dull, and maybe that's the point. And I feel like that was kind of the point, to give this kind of hardened look to it, but I don't know. It just, to me, I don't know. It just felt kind of lifeless, just looking at it, and for these sci-fi films, they really have to have, that layer of personality and character to them, especially in these fantasy sci-fi, epics. This is trying to be on par with, this is trying to be this generation's, Lord of the Rings, this generation's Star Wars, this generation's, and finally an actual adaptation of the Dune series, and I have not read any of the Frank Herbert Dune series. Like I said, I'm not that much of a reader in the fiction world, because I like to watch a lot of films for fiction. Personally, and a lot of the books I read are nonfiction, so it's like, I have not read that, so I didn't really have a frame of reference on this, but that almost is how I wanted to see this film, because I want to judge it as a film. Is this, and that's the thing, like, I don't want to have go read a series of books in order to understand the films. The same thing I said about Game of Thrones as well, with that adaptation. It's I don't want to, that's the thing that people need to get twisted. Like, this is a film, so it should be able to stand on its own as a film. And I think this does. I will say, it does. This is a good film. I was a little disappointed, I will say, in it. However, I don't think it's bad. Okay? I'm not saying it's a bad film. I just wish it was a little bit more exciting. That's the thing about it. It's, there is really, like, interesting visuals here. And, the CG does look good, but ultimately, I just wasn't, that engulfed in this world as much as I wanted to be. And I'll get into that more when we get into the story. And obviously, with this film, I don't have that much to say about the story and the plot. Definitely not as much as, with James Bond when we did that. Because that was actually, kind of, I don't know. That story was a little bit easier to follow than this was. And I get why this was, because this is setting up a second film, which was just announced today, by the way. Yep, it was just actually announced, and I'll talk about that later, a little bit more, probably when I wrap up the story. But, essentially, my final thoughts, non-spoiler, because I kind of do want to get into this. What I'm going to say is about this film is that I think you should see it. I think it's a really good film. I just wish the character work was a little bit more, I wish these characters were a little bit more memorable, especially some of the side characters. I mean, I thought, some of the main characters were really well done, but there were some side characters that just were bland and really corny at times to, without spoiling it. But, you know, overall, I thought this was a good film, and just, they had a lot of time to work on these special effects, and they used that time wisely, because the special effects are really great. And Villeneuve has always had good cinematography with Roger Deakins. You know, they're doing great work, and I will say that, and a lot of people have been, jumping on Villeneuve, and I get it. He hasn't, a lot of his films are just very, visually, oriented, and not as much character and story, and as maybe I would like, or some, classic film fans would like. But ultimately, I do think his products are pretty, they're pretty consistent, and, this film definitely has great visuals, but the score from Hans Zimmer, I was not a fan of. I thought it was very jarring. I mean, the use of the bagpipes, and I like bagpipes on scores for the, but for this kind of film, it just felt so jarring to me. I don't know why. And a lot of these fight sequences just looked really weird to me, and I'll get into that in the spoiler territory, but, overall, my point is, I think you should see the film. It is a good film, and I know I'm kind of, ragging on it, but I think there is a lot of good stuff here. There's great acting, great, cinematography. The special effects are pretty great. The CG looks really good, like some of the best I've seen this year. Like, it's pretty damn convincing at times, and I love the scope of some of these shots. They really kind of give you the sense of atmosphere, the sense of space in this film, and which adds stakes to some of these action sequences. And I like some of the politics that they deal with the worlds and whatnot. But again, I just wish there was a little bit more of that in this film. It just didn't feel like there was enough. But, that's my points. That's my spoiler-free points. We're going to get into the plot.